welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And unfortunately, Ted can't join us tonight. As we're in the middle of couples February, Ted probably had to talk to his own couple. So we'll see what happens with him. But Ted, I wish you could join us for this particular couples February episode. It's going to be amazing. But before we get into how amazing the episode is going to be, I wanted to take some time to make sure we thank our patrons. Grant, we really love our patrons, and they are Daniel, David, new patron this month, Jason, Joseph, another new patron, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Mike, Dominic, Phil, Rob, Robert, and Sean. So this is all good stuff, and we thank everybody for their support and
their help to keep the lights on.
Yeah, as long as the lights are on, we're doing a pretty good job here. So, I did want to say very quickly about the patrons is that it actually means a lot to me, me personally, to have a whole bunch of people support the show. When I started this about 2 years ago, I had no idea if it was going to be accepted, what the reception was going to be, and to see people give a couple of bucks to have this show created every month, it just is really meaningful to me. So thank you to all the patrons, really, 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 and I'm working on swag for everybody, whether you're a $1 patron or a $200 patron.
Do we have any $200 patrons yet?
We will after this show airs. Somebody out there is going to drop the hammer and donate $200 to us.
Well, in light of that, thank you to all of you who are donating, because, as David said, we started this 2 years ago and we had no idea how it would be received. And even the feedback we get on the episodes is really inspiring to see.
Makes us want to keep going, right?
Exactly.
So let's keep going. Let's not belabor the patron point, even though we love our patrons. This is Couples February, and we're going to talk about a love of a different sort, aren't we, Grant?
Yeah, I suppose we are.
Yeah, so tonight, joining us, we have special guest Katie, who is Grant's fiance. Katie, how are you tonight?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm amazing. I wish, Katie, I could say that this is your first time on the show, but
it's not.
It's
you
not.
all know me very well.
Yeah, it's you've been on the show a couple of times. You've made the cut on the show for the Andrath Guardsman. Was it the Andrath Guardsman? I think so. It was the one where you were snoring, and then there was another one where you were snoring too. So,
well, there's been a half a dozen where she's been snoring in the background.
Well, there's only a couple that you could hear. I remember talking to one of the guys on the COTR Discord server. They were like, "Something's wrong with your audio. There's a rhythmic breathing sound going." I was like, no, that's actually. That's actually Grant's fiance, Katie. So, but anyways, Katie, you're very much a great sport. A, for letting us pick on you a little bit about that, and B, for letting Grant come on the show and be a part of this 2-year ride that we've had. So, welcome.
Thank you very much. Keeps him busy and out my hair.
So, Katie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your background is with the game and things like that, or should we just guess?
Well, you could guess if you want.
Okay.
Well, I'm a busy mum, so I don't really play it as often.
Yeah, we always joke around with Grant that there's 5 little kids running around. Well, they're not even little anymore. I think that. Right? The bunch of them. So.
Yeah, they're not that little, but yeah, they're very noisy. And I cannot concentrate on playing a game when they're around.
Right.
So I have to, so I don't get to play as often as you guys do.
Right. Now, how did you get into the game? Did you get in the game separate from Grant, or was Grant the one that actually brought you into the game?
No, Grant forced me to play it.
Did you love games like this before, or was this just like a peace offering for him?
No, I didn't like card games, to be honest. I was more of a Command & Conquer kind of girl. But he was like, no, come on, try it. Oh, all right. I have to.
So then I guess I have to ask the question, how do you feel about the game now?
I like the game as long as I play my dwarves.
Right.
She says that, but she does like some of the other decks we have played in the past.
More dwarfs, though.
More dwarfs.
That's what made me fall in love with the game.
Oh, really? So, did you love Lord of the Rings before you knew about the game?
Do I have to answer?
No, she didn't.
Okay.
I've watched it, and it's good.
Okay. That's fine. You sound a lot like my wife. She's like, oh, it's fine. Except my wife won't ever play the game. So that's what it's all about. So what's your affinity? Why do you love dwarves so much?
Because they're really powerful, especially when you get the right setup.
Oh, yeah.
And they all work well.
How long have you been playing dwarves then? Like, how long have you been playing the game with all these dwarves that you've been talking about?
How long have I been playing it for?
You've been playing on and off for the past year and a half?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Oh, okay. So you're relatively new to the game.
Yeah, I am.
That's good.
I still get very confused.
Well, I was going to say, I've been playing the game for 5 years and I still get really confused. 6 years. It's coming up on my 6-year anniversary playing the game.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been on and off in the game since just before Dwaradolph, so yeah.
Right. So so we're all still confused, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, I have to say that's one of the reasons why I love the game is because it makes me think. Like it's not just like slap cards on the table and do something. It's a game that makes you think. So I appreciate that. Let me ask one more question, and Grant, I'm gonna put the kibosh on you saying anything about this, but so you can't talk. Okay, this is only for Katie. Katie,
Okay.
how did you meet and fall in love with Grant?
Well,
it is Couples February, so we want to talk about true love stories that are a part of the game, and here we are. It's a true love story between you two, right?
Right. Well.
Yeah, right. That's what we're gonna call.
Well, met online.
Okay.
And he kept pestering me, and I kept ignoring him because his picture was weird. I think I told him to go away at some point. And then I thought I was bored, literally just bored. And I thought, he's online, I'll just talk to him. And it started from there. And then we met and fell in love.
Oh, that's nice. Basically. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
my first thought was, wow, you're quite tall.
Oh, he's tall? How tall is he?
Well, he's taller than I was used to.
Okay.
And just to answer your question, I'm 6 foot.
No. You're still on mute. You can't talk.
Yeah, he's about 6 foot.
He's 6 feet. So yeah. So for all the for all the metric listeners, that's about what 1.8 meters, 1.9 meters, somewhere around there.
I think so.
Yeah, something like that. But...
I'm not sure.
So, that's really neat that you guys met online, and then I have some good friends of my own family who they met online and have been in love ever since. So
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Okay, Grant. Now your mute button is off. You can take a minute. Is there anything that you would like to add or amend to Katie's story about how you guys met and fell in love?
No, the only thing I'd like to add to that is the fact that the moment that she fell in love with me was when we were debating some item or
I
other.
forgot about that. We were arguing, not arguing, debating,
Right.
and it was about was it politics?
Or something like that.
Yeah, that's what made me fall in love with him.
Huh. That
Politics.
Politics made you fall in love with him.
Arguing about it.
In the United States, politics kind of breaks families around here anymore, but
Well, it does that over here. It's just that I had a very passionate side of me that came out when I'm in debates,
okay.
which is what made us fall in love with us.
And I did like a good argument.
Oh, that's good. Oh man, this is funny because like talking to Grant, knowing off air, we have all sorts of fun conversations. They get a little inappropriate sometimes, and like I just know that you guys are so good together. You guys laugh about all things together, and you guys seem to have such a good time together. And so this is one of the reasons why I wanted to try to get you guys on for Couples February, because it's just like the epitome of what we want for Couples February. So, Katie, I'll ask you this.
Yes.
We could sit around and talk about you guys personally all day, but I'm going to have you talk about the other true love in your life, and that's the card that we're going to be talking about today. So what card are we talking about today?
Gimli.
We're going to be talking about Gimli. And Grant, I'll let you take it from there. Which Gimli are we talking about? And if you want to read the card, that'd be great.
Okay, we are talking about Gimli from the Treason of Saruman box, the ally, who is 4 cost, 2 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense, 3 hit points. He's a dwarven warrior. He has the Sentinel keyword, and with a response after an enemy is revealed from the encounter deck, ready Gimli.
Yeah. So Katie, that's your boy. That's your love, Gimli. He kind of looks like Grant a little bit too, doesn't he? Big. He's short. He's short. Like he's short, but.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, no, I do love Gimli.
So
except you've got ginger hair.
Well, that's fine.
It's okay.
That's fine. I was going to say something, and then I realized we were recording. So, Katie, what is it that you love about Gimli? Like, what makes you want to play this guy? I mean, other than he's a dwarf, like, why do you like him?
Because I like to do everything in a deck. So I like to have questing power, and I like to be able to attack.
Mm-hmm.
So he can quest, and then when obviously an enemy is revealed, he readies so I can use him to attack.
Right. And I think that that's a really underrated ability, right? Like self-readying. There's not a lot of cards that self-ready in the game.
No.
A lot of times you have to put something on, or you have to pay for it, or, like here it's a response to ready. So I think that
it makes him a really good card.
It makes him a good card. And I think that he is probably undercosted. That's 9. Like he's cheaper than, I don't know. Would I pay 5 for him? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's just right costed. Grant, what's your experience with Gimli when you're playing 2-player and the love of your life has him out on the table?
Well, he's very versatile in what he does. He can either he quests regardless, because if you're not revealing an enemy, you generally probably don't need his response. But if you do reveal an enemy, he's great for defending if you get with the Sentinel keyword, and then he's great for just swinging his axe and cleaving some goblins. So
he always wants to be up to do stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you stick a halberd of mail on him, he goes up to 3 defense and 4 hit points. He's an ideal target for that.
I was going to say, is the hauberk the thing that can only go on Sentinel heroes?
No, it can go on warrior or deal.
Okay.
But it gives a bonus to hit points when attached to a Sentinel character.
Okay. So that's good. He's also a good target for Ancestral Armor, I found. If you can get Ancestral Armor is expensive, so to pay 8 for Ancestral Armor and Gimli is probably above most people's pay grade, but I also think that that's that it's worth it if you can get it out there.
I've never used that.
It's definitely a combo I've looked at. I've never put it into play or practice whenever I've been running two-handed by myself, because I've always had something more beneficial to play with me resources than an 8 resource sink on 1.
Right. Well, he then defends for 4 and attacks for 5, and has 5 hit points, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Katie, what kind of things do you put on Gimli? Like, what kind of stuff? What are his toys that you use in his deck?
Well, generally, I don't normally have to put anything on him because obviously I'm a full dwarf deck, and I use Dane.
Okay.
So it's sort of everyone gets a big boost. So I'm normally really powerful.
Basically, the only toy that you put on Gimli is the halberd of mail. Which,
I've done that. Right.
Which I've already mentioned.
Right.
I will mention that I have run him with Legolas out of the hero spirit version.
Katie, what heroes do you run with this guy? Like, what are your 3 heroes when you have Gimli in a deck? And so obviously, you talked about Dyne being one of them, but what are the other 2? So you need a leadership. There's your leadership hero.
Thorin and Nori.
Nori.
Yes, she's my he's my quester.
Oh, okay. And now, remind me, what does Nori do?
After you put a dwarf into play, reduce your threat by 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. His spirit, right?
Yep. And when you're running a dwarf deck, it's really handy.
Yeah. That's and I was just trying to figure out what kind of things go well on this guy. So just
why as Helm?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So when I play Gimli, I play him in my Dying in the Discard deck. So, and I love him in that deck for exactly what you said, Katie. I love to be able to ready him if an enemy comes out. If there's no enemy that comes out, especially if you're playing solo. When you're playing alone and no enemy comes out, you probably don't need him readied. So it's almost like you can quest with him safely because you're probably not going to need him if no enemy comes out. So anyways, in that deck that I'm running with Gimli, I can put him out pretty reliably all the time because I'm generating all sorts of resources. I have, I have Glowin as my leadership hero, and he generates resources. And then I have Steward of Gondor, which usually goes on Dyne, but I also play with Gandalf, and Gandalf could put him into play from the top of the deck with his resources. So I have a lot of ways to put Gimli into play. But I also have 3 copies of Squire's Helm in that deck, and I have been known to put a Squire's Helm onto Gimli just for that 2 extra hit points to make him boosted up like his hero version, right? Like his hero version is 2225. I like the Squire's Helm on Gimli. Are there any tricks or things that you use Gimli for when you're playing him as this couple?
I don't know. I mean, I normally have extra cards that ready all my dwarfs, so that helps sometimes and all.
Yeah. Generally speaking, if my board state isn't set up and Katie's got Gimli out, I'll look at either getting some sort of boost onto Gimli quite quickly, so that way she can defend more reliably without taking much damage on Gimli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have put shield cards on him. What ones?
That was the Halberd Mail.
Oh, was that? No, there was another one.
Armor available.
Yeah, I think so.
Which gives him +1 defense and he gains Sentinel.
Yeah.
But he's already got Sentinel, so. But I'm just looking at the cards here. Another good target would be Round Shield for him. After Shadow Effect is triggered during combat, exhaust Round Shield to give the attached character +2 defense for this attack.
Yeah, if you have access to the tactics. And the fact that it's a 0-cost item, that makes it that much better to put onto Gimli. Now, what makes... Go ahead.
I was just going to say another good one would be either the Raiment of War or Ringmail.
Right, because he does have that warrior trait, right? So, and the Raiment of War you can put on a character as opposed to... It doesn't have to go on a hero. So, those things are good. So, yeah. It's really interesting because the dwarf archetype really kind of really is, what do I want to say, not very popular anymore. The beginning of the game saw dwarf decks going crazy. And recently, dwarf decks have not been the favorite out there. But I love this version of Gimli, and I really love my dwarf deck. When I play it, Katie, when you play with Grant, what does Grant play? What kind of deck does Grant play to help support your? I'll call it your Gimli deck, but it's really your dwarf deck. What is he doing to help support you? And I mean just in the game. I'm not talking about in life, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, he plays all different types of decks, to be honest, because my dwarf deck can sustain itself. So if he wants to test decks or whatever, then he'll just use different decks. It won't matter because I'll have the firepower, the questing power behind me to carry him, really, if I need to.
Okay, so we know who's the rock in the relationship is really your dwarf deck, right?
Yes, it is my dwarf deck.
Has your dwarf deck changed much in the past year and a half? Like, you built it and it stayed together, or have you added certain things and changed certain things about it?
I have added a few things.
We've all added and changed the deck a few times with new releases. But when Katie joined the game, we had the Wilds of Ravanian that not long come out, or was due to come out, and that obviously give access to the Halberd of Mail and some other nice little toys that were put in, but then since have removed for more generic dwarf shenanigans.
Dwarf shenanigans.
Well, what kind of...
I sort of go back and forward, to be honest. Sometimes I fancy putting this dwarf in or take this dwarf out. I don't know. I think it depends on how I feel.
But the kind of the...
Yeah, sideboard like 90 cards.
I do like my original deck, and yes, it has a lot of cards in it.
She's got a sideboard of 90.
Right. Well, the sideboard is the whole card pool, right? Do you ever find yourself putting any sort of weapons on Gimli in the deck? Was there tactics in the deck? You said it was Thorin. Who was?
It was
Thorin,
Dane, and Nori.
Right. So there's no tactics in the deck. So you're not searching for Dwarven Elf Axe or Dwarven Axe.
No. Usually, if there's anything tactics related, if I'm running a side deck, I might be running tactics, which I'll probably drop out something on her side that's tactics related.
I do use
She uses Narvi's belt.
That's it, Narvi's belt.
And so Narvi's Belt gives a dwarf hero the 4 resources. Do you play any off-sphere cards in that deck then? Because you're using Narvi's...
Yes, I do.
Yeah, she's got a lot of law cards sitting in that deck.
So what do you do if you can't find Narvi's Belt?
She cries.
I do. I cry. I have about 3 copies in it, so I'm...
Yeah, and never put her in a quest that has to discard any attachments.
No, I don't like them quests. I refuse.
So basically, the Ringmaker cycle is completely out of it for you, and in about half of the other quests that exist.
Yeah.
I do rely heavy on my
she likes Voltroning.
Right.
But it's not just Voltroning 1 hero, it's Voltroning 2 or 3.
Yeah, my Steward of Gondor. Gotta have that.
So Katie, in the Wilds of Ravanian box, not the most recent cycle, but the cycle before this, there was a card, a treachery called Weighed Down, and I don't know if you've ever played it, but it's an attachment from the encounter deck, and you put it on the hero with the most attachments, and then every time you ready that hero, you have to discard an attachment that's not weighed down. So I assume you don't like that card. Well, what about any of the guarded attachments, right? I mean, a lot of those go on a hero, right? But do you get any benefit? Do you run guarded attachments in this dwarf deck of yours? Like Necklace of Girion.
I love Necklace of Girion.
Let's see.
That helps.
Yeah, I mean it helps. That's one of my favorites. That and the Arkenstone, which is also really thematic to go in this dwarf deck, right? Because the Arkenstone, take a little sidelight here for the viewers. The Arkenstone was the stone that was in the Lonely Mountain, and that was the one that Thorin was seeking. It was called the Heart of the Mountain, right? And so, anyways, it would be thematic to see the Arkenstone in that deck. So, and that would help Gimli too because he's a unique character.
Arkenstone.
Yep.
That's my willpower. Oh, I've never actually used that.
Yeah, you have.
Have I?
Yep. It was in one of the iterations of your deck.
Oh, right, okay.
You also run Thor's Ring.
Oh, Thor's Ring. We did a show on that too, right? With Christian.
Did.
Hey, Christian, how are you doing out there? It's good to see you. Another friend of the show. Yeah, Thor's Ring is...
Oh, so I have got quite a bit on him then.
Thor's Ring isn't exactly go on Gimli, it goes on one of the other heroes.
But we were talking about guarded cards that can go in the deck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this Gimli, have you used the other versions of Gimli at all, Katie?
No, I have not.
Yes, you have.
Have I not?
You've used Tactics.
I'm terrible.
No, you're good. This is good. This is fun.
when we first started playing, you liked the other version of Gimli.
Oh, hang on. I have to get it up. I need to look at the picture.
He's big, imposing dwarf guy.
Oh, yes. I remember him now.
And while you're looking that up, let me just say that that the art in this game is amazing. And so, Katie, when you say, I don't know the card until I see the picture, like, that's just a testament to how awesome the art is in the game, that you're recognizing a card in the game by the picture and not necessarily by what it does and what its ability is. And I think that that's a testament to how good the creators of the game make the art and have elevated the game to be this amazing product. So, I think it's great that you say I need to see the picture, because that's just a testament to how awesome the art is in the game. There's a couple pieces of art that are a little wonky, but whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do love the art, and as I say, I relate everything to pictures. So I'm like, I know who that is.
Right.
As soon as I see it.
Right. So, why this version of Gimli and not the other hero version of Gimli?
Because hero, when I'm running dwarfs, then I have to have my set hero.
Okay, like
you're kind of attached to Thorin, Dane, and Nori. We have tried running with Gimli, Dane, and Nori, but
yeah, I mean, Thorin gives you his benefit.
When you've got 5 dwarves, you gain an
that's
extra
it.
resource.
I love resources, so
Yeah, she's a resource hoarder, so I cannot run any resource acceleration in my deck, otherwise she gets upset.
I do.
You can claim the Necklace of Girion and Steward of Gondor in her
She's
deck.
got all the
you can't use
unique,
them.
all the unique resource accelerators.
The only time I'm allowed to use Necklace of Girion is when I'm running my Grim Beyond deck, because I need it for
Hirgon, right? But it sounds like you guys really have, between the two of you, have worked together to really come up with a way to use Gimli in a deck to really maximize him, right? Like, I mean, it seems like you're questing and attacking and defending or doing whatever you need to do with it.
Yeah, you have options with him. He's very versatile.
Yeah, and it's funny because we had a show on recently when it was like a 2-2-2, 2 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense character we were talking about. And a lot of times the community gets upset about a 2-2-2, because it just seems like you're wasting stats, right? It seems like you're not going to use them. But I think that that's not the case with Gimli. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, if you quest and then you can ready him up when something gets revealed, then you can decide whether you want to attack or defend with him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But going back to what you were saying, I think because some of these allies that have a 2-2-2 stat line, their abilities dictate what they have to do, whereas Gimli's ability is basically allowing him to be versatile. You can defend with him, and he's got the Sentinel keyword to allow him to do that, or you can attack with him because his attack isn't terrible.
Yeah, it's not terrible. That two for a, let me put it like this, 2 attack that appears to be a bonus because you exhausted him to quest for 2, and then you ready him if you reveal an enemy, and now you have 2 attack that you wouldn't have otherwise. Do you see what I'm saying by that?
And if I've got Dane on, then it goes up to 3.
Right. Yep. 3 attack, 3 willpower, right?
Yep.
So,
which makes him more awesome.
Right. And that's the other thing that I was going to say. So what do you typically use Gimli for? Do you typically use him to attack, or do you typically use him to defend? Or is it situational?
It's situational, really. I mean, most of the time I use him to quest and then attack. Or depending on what Grant's running, I might have to use him for defending. But I only use him defending if I'm playing with Grant, 2-player game. because he needs all the backup he can get.
Grant does, or Gimli does?
Grant does. So
no, that's funny.
I normally end up putting things like unexpected courage on Dane, so he's my defender.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah, he's totally. And it's funny because New Dine, there's a New Dine out there that is a spirit version, and you could just use him to. He doesn't give dwarves a bonus, but he's definitely a lot of fun to play with.
Ooh. I have to have a look.
Ooh.
Oh, I know. Look.
Well, this is why this show. I love this show, is because it just gives me a ton of tech ideas. We've been doing the show for 2 years, and probably 90% of my deck ideas have come from something from this show. So,
I mean, I do like to give things a go, but I'm very stubborn.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well,
I like to have the best of everything.
Grant, let's. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
She won't be playing New Dine. She does not like discarding from her deck.
Do you have to discard? Oh, yeah.
I'll pull them up for you, darling.
Yeah, that's another one of my traits. I don't.
What
like
if you can? What if you can discard a card but put dwarves into play right from your discard without paying for them, and then you get to keep resources, but you're discarding cards.
See that?
Because there's cards like that. There's the Heirloom Miner that you discard cards, and then all of a sudden put it into play if you discard it from the top of your deck. And that also works with a very good tail. When you're using a very good tail to bring out more, you can, if the Heirloom Miner is one of them, you can put him into play directly. See, I don't know, this discard thing.
I know. I mean, I have worked with discarding, like with other decks, and it's really good. But I worry because my dwarf decks.
Right.
I need certain items, and like Nari's Bell.
Right.
And I need my resources, and I worry if I discard them, then it's gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna find them quicker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's why I have an issue with.
She
discarding.
even has an issue with using the Ring of Throw to, even if she discards an attachment, she worries that she's going to discard one of our allies.
Well, happens the way it works, right?
I love my allies.
So
I will give it a go.
What I might do is you're Dean in the Discord on Rings DB.
Right.
I might download that for her to test that one out, see if she likes it, because running with Gandalf allows you to see the top card of your deck permanently. That might be a way for her to get over her fear of discarding.
Right. I feel like there's a discussion with C-Stan about discarding cards and knowing how awesome it is. So
yeah, his Aristor decks.
Right. You should. I would love to see Katie. I would love to see your face if you don't know who Aristor is and what he does. I would love for you to see what his ability is and see your response to what his ability is.
Well, we're just about to find out.
It's not the first part; it's the second part.
There he is.
At the end of our discard. No! No! I don't do things like that. No! That's terrible.
Yeah.
Especially when I've got all them law cards, green ones.
Right.
Green ones in my hand, waiting to be put out. Soon as
with Aristor, you wouldn't have any cards in your hand to worry about. I will tell you that we had Chris Stanford on the show. I don't know, Grant, what was it, like a year ago or more? And
more.
Yeah. And at this point now, so Chris, if you're listening, I'm almost to the point where I can put together an Aristor deck and not feel bad about it. I can put together an Aristor.
Chris was our fourth guest on the show.
Oh, okay, so he was like September of 2 years ago. So, yeah. Well, thanks. That was really good, Chris, for coming on the show so early. Thank you for having faith in Card Talk. So this is good. So Gimli does a lot of those things without having, and this is what we were saying at the very. I'll bring it right back to the beginning. Is that one of the things that Gimli does is he has a way to self-ready. Without having other cards on him and without having any sort of kind of bad impact on the game. No matter what, you're still going to have to reveal cards from the encounter deck. And so this response is kind of I know that all responses are passive, but this is a like passive response that's like, hey, if an enemy comes out, if it just happens to be an enemy, you're going to ready. It's not like you have to do other things to ready him. So I love this. I love that. I don't know. What else do you guys have about Gimli? Do you want to do we talk about him or do we ring him?
I mean, I think we've said everything. I mean, he's just brilliant, and he should go in
every deck that's ever made ever, right?
Yeah, that's it. Every deck that's ever made, he needs to be in there.
I'd just like to talk about the art for a minute. That looks amazing.
This is some of the most amazing art in the game. The artist did a really good job.
He did. It looks like he's standing either in front of Helm's Deep with that axe just slung up across his back. Like, yeah, I'm ready to start me counting with Legolas. Right.
It may be that he's done too. If you look at oh no, okay. I was gonna say if you look at his left shoulder there, it's got some red on it, but that's just his.
That's just his robe, like his cloak.
His cloak pinned to his armor. But he's definitely ready to go in this picture, and it's amazing. He looks battle ready and like.
And just look at the detail on that axe head.
It's, like, I thought he was standing kind of on the wall of Helm's Deep, but that may be like Helm's Deep in the back. You're right, because at some point he comes off the wall of Helm's Deep, right, and ends up in the Crystal Caverns.
Well, it could be that he's still on the battlement at the front, and that turret's the inner keep.
Yeah, or he could be. I mean, the flavor text is from the Two Towers, which is the Battle of Helm's Deep, but he also could be. It may be in, the Battle of Pelennor Field or something like that too, with Gondor in the background. But I don't think so. But it could be.
I just love that flavor text. Give me a row of oak necks and room to swing, and all my weariness will fall from me.
That summarizes Gimli as a fighter all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready to ring this guy.
So, Katie, are we ready to ring this guy? Okay.
Yep.
So, for anybody who's new to the show or has forgotten how we do this, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring our cards on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10, if we say 10 rings, then we throw that card back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made. So, Grant, Katie, I'm going to let you two fight it out for second and third. I'm going to go first, and then you guys can ring this thing after me. So, I think Gimli is a great ally, but I think he's kind of... How do I want to say this? It's not that he's limited in the type of deck that he goes in, but his cost limits him to the types of deck that he goes in. So the fact that he's a dwarf he doesn't have to go in a dwarf deck, but there's just only so many 4-cost allies that you can put into a deck. But for that 4 cost, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So if I were going to ring this Gimli, I'm gonna ring it a 4 because I'm reaching for him, but I'm not necessarily including him in a bunch of my decks. But he definitely slides into some decks where I need a big heavy hitter, and he definitely is that. Okay, so now you guys are across the pond over in England. You get to fight out who's going to go second, who's going to go third.
Do you want me to go second?
Yeah, you can go. Save the best till last.
That's it.
Well, I'm going to give him a 2 rings. He doesn't make it in every one of my leadership decks, but he makes it into a few. And he's very versatile, and he comes in and hits hard. He's self-readying, so you don't need to worry about whether stained cloak or some of the other readying effects for allies, because he does it himself. And he's just an all-round decent ally.
Okay, Katie, what do you think?
Well, I'd ring him a 1 because, well, he's just awesome.
It's just awesome.
As he said, self-readying, check. He's not a bad costing card, I don't think. Especially if you've got resourcing generating. I just think he does everything, and he can go anywhere, and that's why he's 1.
And you know what? we wouldn't have had you on the show if you didn't think anything of him. So I'm actually kind of glad and relieved that you said that he's a 1, because we would expect nothing less.
No.
People don't come on the show and say, I'm going to pick this character and think that he is trash. Well, it's happened a couple of times, but it was more out of fun than anything.
No, I picked him because he was one of my favorite.
Yeah, so
of all time. So.
Katie, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know that we had to coax you a little bit. It wasn't your favorite thing to come on the show, but with Couples February, we wanted to make sure that we got some amazing couples on the show, and you and Grant definitely, in my book, make a really amazing couple. So thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. So, I'm still waiting for Card Talk After Dark.
Card Talk After Dark. For the listeners who don't know, Grant, Ted, and I have been kicking around the idea of doing Card Talk After Dark, where we don't hold anything back and we don't censor ourselves, and we make really bad jokes about the cards, but we haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. But if you have any feedback or want to, come on.
To be fair, we've been kicking around the idea of Card Talk After Dark since we started.
Well, right. We may not have put a name to it, but it's definitely something that we have thought about. So,
yeah.
But anyways, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Card Talk. Join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username CardTalk2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at CardTalk2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.